Welcome to Manage Your Memo, a bi-weekly podcast that beams from the beautiful hills of Dudley, Massachusetts. Manage Your Memo is a business forum where the fundamentals of planning, organizing, leading, and evaluating are discussed and debated. Your host for our show is Len Samborowski, Management Chair at Nichols College. And now, on with the show.
Hello out there, and welcome to Manage Your Memo, where we talk to leading practitioners in the field about the functions of planning, organizing, leading, and evaluating. And today we have a special guest all the way from Plano, Texas, 𝐀𝐫𝐞. He is, by his label on his website, CEO Confidant. And I love this title, Human Potential Aficionado. I love it. I love it. Thanks a lot for joining us on Manage Your Memo, 𝐀𝐫𝐞. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Do me a favor, tell us a little bit about yourself and how we linked up today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So basically, I'm originally from Barcelona, but I left Barcelona in the 90s. So an American company hired me to go from Spain to the UK to take actually the lead for some account management work from the UK for European accounts, the south of Europe, and then also some countries in the north of Europe. And that started my international career. I was lucky enough to say that my mom and dad, middle class family, strong Catholic beliefs. They said, we want you, Angel, to learn foreign languages. So I was 17, 18 years old, and I already was able to speak English and French. And I wanted to have an international career. So what's best than going to the UK? As you know, the UK and London area is like the stronghold of the financial business in Europe, and also a lot of high-tech companies. And actually, it was one high-tech company that hired me to go there. That was the starting point of my international career, being able to eventually work in more than 30 countries, conducting business in more than 30 countries.
Truly international flair. What was that company that you started with?
Exactly. It was called PTC, Parametric Technology Corporation. Very well known in the Massachusetts area.
So from Barcelona to London, and now Plano, Texas. How did that happen?
Well, I was working in London, and I was invited to a sales boot camp in Massachusetts, in Waltham, Massachusetts.
Right.
And obviously I went there, and after that I took a vacation, and I took a vacation of 1 week in Mexico and 1 week in Cuba after the sales boot camp. And someone, before I left the UK, from the UK to the US, someone gave me a book, and I was reading that book. And when I finished reading that book, I said, wow, I mean, this book has really, gotten to me. It's called The Celestine's Prophecy by a gentleman called James Redfield. You might have read it.
I've read it. Yeah, it's a great book. Great book.
Exactly. It's a great book, right? That you either resonate or do not resonate with that book.
No middle ground, right?
Exactly. No middle ground. So I said, oh my God, this means something. I have to listen to my heart. I came back to London, and I said to my manager, I said, hey, Eric, would you allow me to go with PTC? Would you allow me to please go to Latin America? Do you have some opening in there? And he said, well, let me check. And that was beginning of March 2001. May, I was already in Mexico City, literally. So it was really fast. There was an opening in Mexico City, at the office in Mexico City. And well, that started my Latin American career.
Angel, one of the things that you're telling me here fascinates me, which is, you work in Latin America, you work in London, you're international flair and now USA based. What is the difference between business in Latin America and the business in Dallas, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts? Is there a cultural difference, and do you approach things differently?
The answer is yes. The answer definitely, the approach is different, because culturally speaking, I would say that, well, number one, every society, really, if we go back in time, if you study history, you realize that there's certain things happening in every single country. I would say that if I had to maybe mention only one thing, is the way that expectations are being set, and the things that are being said, right? The things that are being said and the things that are not being said.
Sometimes it's that nonverbal communication.
Exactly. But also, let's say there are many things that are being expected when you conduct a business meeting in Latin America There are many more social aspects to conducting a deal, let's say a deal in general, that are really in practice there have been eliminated in the more capitalistic kind of conducting business. So in Europe and North America, businesses are more, there's less stages. So let's say the conversations you have with people, the conversations we have with the people involved in the decision process of any deal, right? Those conversations are more straightforward. There's a concept that I love, that I would love to share with you, which is something called the secret contract. The secret contract. The secret contract is that, for instance, you and I, we just started to talk, right? We don't know each other. We just, I know a little bit about you, obviously, because I read about you online beforehand. You did the same thing with me, but you expect certain things from your guest, even without not telling me.
Sure.
Probably there's also some things that you expect from your friends, from your relatives, from your partners in life, from your partners in business. There's certain things that you have never told them, ever. And I call them a secret contract. You've never told them about that, but you expect those things from them because they are part of your culture, right? So the terms of that secret contract that you hold with people that you do business in North America are completely different to the basis, to the clauses, to the terms and conditions of those secret contracts that you actually hold when you're conducting business in Latin America. Yes. I would say there are more of them. And this is not bad or good. It's just the nature of the beast.
Just the way it is.
Exactly. So for instance, let's say you are talking to a CEO in Latin America, someone who runs a multiple, let's say $10, $20 million Latin American based company. Typically, they're trying to avoid rejection. That's one of the things I would say it's a big difference. It's difficult for them in general. It's difficult to immediately say no. So it takes a longer time, a longer period, a longer conversation, a longer relationship in order to build that common ground that will allow you to eventually close some business with them. And again, This is not good or bad. It is just as it is, right? It's just as it is. And again, it's part of that secret contract. Obviously, the rest of the world has the exact same thing with you. Remember, every single person that you have a relationship with in a continuous basis, they actually have a secret contract with you. So they expect certain things from you. And the funny thing is that when you're not up to their expectations, then there's conflict.
Yes.
And when there's conflict, then how do you solve that conflict? And I would say that typically for cultural reasons, in North America, we tend to be like more straightforward.
Right.
And we try to be to confront more those misunderstandings or those expectations that are not being met. So it would be very common to say, okay, so I'm not really in agreement with this. And you say it out loud, and you bring it to the surface, and that makes the deals go faster. And that was one of the first things that I have to say when I moved from Europe to Latin America. So I was expecting certain things that were not happening. So my secret contract with everybody that I was starting to talk with any company, I would say, there's something going on here that I'm not still understanding.
Right.
Until I realized that those terms and conditions, those clauses of this secret contract of me with those companies, or with those executives in those companies, was different.
Yeah, I love that idea of a secret contract, and I can see how you apply it to the different parts of the world where you engage in business. Tell me if I'm wrong or right on this. I mean, I feel that American businesses, everyone has labels and everyone has preconceived notions of how Americans conduct business. My preconceived notion both as a business teacher, I teach in business school, and as someone that has seen firsthand American business, is that we're impatient. We're in a rush. And it's like, boom, boom, boom. I've got this schedule and my Excel spreadsheet, check, 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 and let's get it done and get the profit, make the profit. In my past years, I was in Korea, South Korea. And there, it's about developing a relationship. and you don't enter a business discussion until you sit down, maybe have a drink, either non-alcoholic or alcoholic, share some food, get to know each other, and then maybe you get around to the business. Am I right or wrong on that?
No, I agree with you. For instance, with Mexico, it's very common to have a working breakfast. It's like so common. Let's meet for breakfast. And at breakfast, but you eat real heavy food on breakfast and you start having a real conversation, and you can have a 2-hour breakfast. So restaurants in Mexico City, and obviously many other places in Mexico, they are full of people at breakfast time, starting at 7, honestly, until 11, maybe even lunchtime. I agree with you that you have to build that relationship. You have to build that personal relationship before you start working on a business relationship. I have not conducted a lot of business in Asia. I've done some business in India, some business in the Philippines, and some business in Bangladesh. But in Latin America, there's this human closeness. You're really close to people. People want to hug you. People want to shake your hand. People want to touch you. They just do it because it's the way they are. And they do it without thinking. I tell you, it's difficult not to hug someone when you go to Latin America.
And I think we'll get back to that, hopefully in 6 months to a year from now, when the vaccine starts to hit its full stride. And then we start to unleash all this potential that's had a cap on it. And that's where I want to go now, because you talk about human potential aficionado, you talk about divine human ventures, and how you try to lead and inspire with divine principles. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to tell us about some of those principles and how you get CEOs motivated to maximize their potential.
Thank you. Actually, I think that you mentioned something which is really true, which is the patience, the time. What role does patience and time play in every single relationship, in every single business relationship? The reason why I call my company Divine Human Ventures is because I had a spiritual experience in 2015 that actually made me decide that I wanted to leave corporate America and start both my consulting business and my nonprofit. So I had this spiritual experience in which I was seeing why I had been doing everything that I had done to that point in my life in 2015. I realized why I had done that and what should I do moving forward. Okay, so divine principles, number one, I think that acceptance is the number one. acceptance, right? Because when you are not patient, when you are trying to push your agenda, obviously you're putting a lot of resistance out there, and you are not accepting the fact that every relationship needs some time and needs to be developed. Any single relationship, you might be closing a deal, you might be trying to sell something, you might be wanting to develop a partnership, right? Or even a I don't know, a distribution channel partnership kind of thing. So all those different things require that you accept the other party and how they are. The number one would be acceptance.
Just pure acceptance, no judgment. You're just listening. You're accepting the person as they are, with warts and faults and any sort of issue. And you're accepting their words and not trying to judge. Am I tracking there?
You are absolutely, which is pretty unique, I would say, because the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning is to start judging, no matter what. If you go and grab a coffee from Starbucks, depending on how they serve you that day, the size of their smile, right. I mean, anything. I mean, we've been raised to judge, like it or not. I mean, that's who we are. So first, make a step back, accept each other as they are, and try to live your life as an observer. Obviously, when accepting, it doesn't mean that you don't have to do your due diligence, okay? It doesn't mean that you have to jump into any kind of association or relationship with blind eyes. That doesn't mean that. It means that you have to be fully present in that conversation, in those conversations, in order to accept things that you are being told as they are. The second principle that I like to use with my business partners or clients would be humility. Humility.
That's a tough one and an important one, because you meet all these talented people out there, rich people, and gosh, there are some big egos.
Exactly. And it's a lesson that you learn every single day. And I have come to learn, Leonard, that the more you stay in humility, the more you attract humble people. The message that you send out there, and we're talking about marketing right now, the more we send this message out there and you stay in that position of humility, the more you attract humble people, that they realize that you come from that place and they're attracted to that place. And that's something that is really embedded in this principle. Maybe step out of these human principles and go to marketing and put this divine principle in relationship with marketing. Because I think that we typically make a mistake when we try to go out there and we try to maybe attract every single one, right? We're trying to craft our messaging, craft our copywriting, our content, everything in a way that we try to really grab everybody. Or even if we are able to define like a persona or an avatar to talk to, we try to be as broad as possible because we are afraid that we're going to be niching down so narrowly that we're not going to attract anybody. It's the other way around. The more we are able to narrow down our messaging and to talk to the real person that we want to attract, the more we are going to attract the kind of, in my case, CEOs that they want to attract. And there's this common misunderstanding. Everybody's so afraid, no, but I cannot go. So, hey, do you live in a world of scarcity or in a world of abundance? Right? And you would say, no, of course. I mean, I'm this super CEO or this super executive, and I live in a world of abundance, and I have these many cars, this super house, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Do you see the world? There's infinite ways that you can serve and you can provide value. Okay, so that's why I think it's important for me to say this, why humility is important and why speaking from a place of humility is actually good for you if that's what you stand for.
And you use the word often in your description there to serve other people, which is what you do when you're humble. You're about the team and not the individual. You're about the we and not the me. And so you're serving other people. And I'm huge on that myself, about the servant leader and the aspect of you can't serve other people if you're not humble. So angel, in which you are in many different ways, that's a truly great word to use here. Acceptance and then humility. And what is the third?
The third one is being grateful, is gratitude. Gratitude. It's related to the way you see the world that surrounds you. What really makes you go from the place that you are to wanting more? My motto is, corporate CEOs and established entrepreneurs, they hire me to bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure. Right. I help them accelerate the growth of their businesses through international expansion and exposure strategies. Obviously, everybody wants to grow. Everybody wants to accelerate. I attract people that wants to accelerate and want to grow, but I like to work with people that are really grateful. People that really see that what they have already accomplished, it's going to take them to the next level as far as we are able to serve more people. I remember in 2012 when I attended a event from Tony Robbins. He said, the level of wealth that you will ever achieve will depend on the amount of people that you are able to serve. And it's so right. It's absolutely so right. So think in terms, the world is abundant. Your skill set is totally unique. Nobody on earth has lived what you have lived. Nobody on earth has gone through what you have gone through. Even with you, you're a professor. You have been, super in touch with the business world. Obviously, you are in touch with the academia world for many years. You are in the middle of these two amazing worlds. So the amount of experience that you have brought, that you carry, is amazing. Nobody is able to serve the world, Leonard, as you are. Nobody. But this is true for everybody. I commonly find that executives going out of the corporate world, going and wanting to become entrepreneurs, they have this imposter syndrome. They think they're not enough. And it happened to me too. I was the other day in a webinar. I was giving a webinar to a business accelerator here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area about pivoting, about reinventing yourself. And it's extremely important when you do that to realize that sit down, take a piece of paper, and write down every single thing that you have achieved in your business life, every single achievement, every single thing that you have done, and just think how many people have done the same thing I have done. Have they served their clients the same way I have? Of course not. Of course not. And one of the things that someone told me was, why don't you count the number of clients you have served? So I started to count the companies. I said, oh my God, when I reach 1,500, I say, okay, let's leave it here. Right now, I can really say that I have helped some companies. I have helped some people. And that happens to us all the time. We underestimate what we have done in our lives.
And everybody has that, as you say. Everyone has that experience, and we fail to recognize the beauty of that impact. You have said that list down the 10 people or the 10 corporations or the 10 companies, and yet there's an exponential factor, is there not? Because if you touch 10 people and you've educated them about the divine principles of acceptance and humility and gratitude, and they in turn reach out to 10 more, now exponentially, you're talking about 100. Mm-hmm. And so that's the power. That's the power of that unique experience. I want to ask you, your efforts with Wisdom for Kids to empower underprivileged children in Latin America to become entrepreneurs with the resources available. Can you tell us about that? That seems fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I spoke to this spiritual experience I had in 2015. So literally what happened one day, I woke up in the morning, it was a Saturday. I had missed the last flight from Mexico City to Dallas the previous day. So I felt really remorseful for obliging my family to be without me again. Another time, when you work for corporate America, you just do what you have to do, regardless. If you have to miss a flight because you're working on a particular deal, you're going to do it. Wherever you are, you have to do it, right?
Got to get it done.
Exactly. So I woke up and I went to the shower and I literally started to cry for no reason. It was all those images of me going to those underprivileged areas. Typically, all those companies I was visiting, all those clients of mine in Latin America, those manufacturing plants would be always on the suburban areas of those big cities. So a lot of poverty, as you can imagine. Just think about this. There's 170 million kids in Latin America. 81 of them live in poverty. So I had these images that day that I had visited all those plants, manufacturing plants, but every time I would go to one of these manufacturing plants, what would I find outside? Outside those plants, there were always kids offering me some food, some chewing gums to buy, some tacos, or I'm going to keep your car safe while you are inside. I'll make sure nobody steals your car for 10 pesos, or I'm going to clean your car. I'm going to clean your windshield, whatever that was. So I was all the time going to deal with these super executives that I was going to try to close deals with, and I was meeting just 5 minutes before I was dealing with these super poor kids. So in 2015, I had this epiphany, and I said, oh my God, I have to do something. And I'm extremely well prepared to do this because I have so many connections in Latin America that I can help so many kids. So I remember crying, and that day was a crazy day. I had never been in that spot in my entire life.
You were in the shower, though. You were in the shower. Nobody saw you. No one.
Exactly. Well, anyway, I was like 30 minutes really on my knees crying inside the shower. I left the shower, and then I said, oh my God, that means something. I have to do something about it. I reached out to a friend of mine in Mexico, and I told him, would you like to join me in this adventure? This is what I see. I think that we have to teach entrepreneurship to the kids in Latin America, and we have to do it in a certain way. And he was a professor in a school in Mexico City, and he had trained tens of thousands of teachers for the previous 50 years. So he was a professor in one of the most important teacher schools in Mexico, and he had written 70 plus textbooks still being used in several educational systems in Latin America still. So we sat down, all of three, all became the co-founders of Wisdom for Kids. In Spanish is Niños Sabios, right? And we decided to start working on what can we do which can change the kids' lives in a short period of time. How can, if we start developing and we start delivering a workshop to those kids, professor, right, the professor of this university, he actually took 2 PhD students working on the most powerful entrepreneurial workshop on earth. So it's a 2-hour workshop, extremely experiential. We jump, we sing, we play, we exercise, we do all sorts of weird stuff. We even meditate with the kids.
Yes.
We meditate with the kids. So this 2-hour workshop became the flagship of our strategy. And then the next thing was, okay, so how do we reach out in a systematic way, in a constant way? How do we reach out to communities with kids, with underprivileged kids, right? And then we had another blessing, which is obviously, as this co-founder had been teaching thousands and thousands and thousands of teachers, guess what? He started to pull his Rolodex and say, okay, oh yeah, I remember I have a teacher that I train, and he or she is in that particular area, and this is a really poor area. That was the starting point of all of our activities.
But that's fabulous, and it's one of those things that you're paying it forward because those kids will turn around and they're going to be doing something positive for someone else. So hats off to you. That's fantastic.
The most important thing I would like to say, and thank you for the opportunity, Leonard, is that we all have this incredible potential of changing people's lives, all of us. And we don't have to be super communicators. We don't have to go through a public relations training in order to be able to talk to the world. We just have to be ourselves. Right. And I would say right now, with everything that's going on in the world, there's a lot of fear. And I would like all of us that we play some kind of role in the business arena to send a message of hope and of faith to everybody else, saying everybody out there really has an incredible potential to work on his or her passion and change the world and be the leader of other people that right now might be really lost in translation, if I can use this term.
Yes.
I would really like to say that, and I would really like to everybody that's listening to us today to go inside of you. Please go inside of you. Take only a few minutes after this conversation with Leonard. Go inside of you, and who do you think you can change the life of today? Who do you think that you can reach out today? I get it. I get that there's a lot of fear. I get that we have to take a lot of precautions, but still we are human beings. There's so much that we can do with just a phone call, with just an email message. I know that many of us have burned bridges in the last 12 months. Willingly or unwillingly, we've burned bridges. I know that. And I like to I post on LinkedIn every single day, and I make a mixture of business-related posts and personal-related posts. And one of my most common themes in the last 12 months have been, let's rebuild those bridges. There's so much more that unites us that separates us.
Yes, yes.
Just be mindful of this. Be mindful of this and take the opportunity today to do that. It can be a business conversation. It can be a personal conversation. Just listen. Just be open to listen. Use gratitude, humility, and acceptance, and you can change the world of that business owner or that friend of yours or that relative that so much needs it. That's the message I would like to get across.
Build that bridge back. And, I'm so grateful too that I have the opportunity to meet wonderful people like you, inspiring people like you. And so I learned about the divine human principles, and your 3 are just spot on. Acceptance of others, live life as an observer, be fully present in conversation, humility, serve other people, and then gratitude for just where we are and what we're doing. So Angel Rebo of Divine Human Ventures, and your label, which is spot on, Human Potential Aficionado and Wisdom for Kids. Thank you so much for joining us today on Manager Memo.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. If people want to avail themselves to your talents, what's the best way to do that? How do they reach out to you?
So the easiest way is to send me an email. My name is Angel, A-N-G-E-L, as in heaven, and then at Angel Ribo. Ribo is my last name, R-I-B as in boy, O.com. That's the easiest way. And then I'm very active on LinkedIn. If you go to Angel Ribo the CEO Confidant, which is kind of my brand, you will find me there. I'm very active. I answer all the messages. Happy to listen and to help all of you that think that we can have a two-way constructive conversation anytime. And thank you, Leonard, for the opportunity. And obviously, thank you, everybody, for it.
You're certainly welcome. And I'll put this contact information on the podcast notes also. So thank you, Angel Ribo, for appearing on Management Memo, where we talk to leading practitioners in the field about the principles of planning, organizing, leading, and evaluating. Thank you very much. God bless.